I'm now joined by Marcel Marcondes, CMO of AB InBev. Corona featured in BrandZ's first global beer category ranking in 2006, and it's currently the most valuable beer brand in the world. Huge congratulations to you, Marcel, and everyone in the team there at AB InBev, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Adele. We're very excited. Having Corona as the #1 brand in the BrandZ ranking is a huge achievement. Budweiser in the #2. And actually, if you consider the top 10, we have 8 out of the top 10 most valuable beer brands in the world. So this is a huge achievement. We're very excited and very honored.
Wonderful, and we're delighted to have you with us. As you know, this year sees the 20th edition of Kantar BrandZ's Most Valuable Global Brands. And clearly the world and the marketing industry has changed a huge amount in that time, and for many reasons. As someone who's been involved in marketing over that period, I'd love to ask you about what you've learned so far and how you think the industry will continue to develop. So let's start with some questions about your own career journey to date. What would you say is the most significant lesson you've learned about building great brands so far in your career?
That's a great question, Adele. And wow, 20 years, right? Congratulations to you all. I would say probably 3 points in terms of how the marketing function has been evolving in the last couple of decades. First, I think we need to remind ourselves now more than ever that this is about humanity. Marketing is focused on humans. In the end of the day, companies are made of people, and we exist to serve other people, human beings. So humanity has been changing a lot. On top of checking our P&Ls every day, we need to really deeply understand the ones we're serving, and humanity is making a big difference in how we build brands and businesses. Second point is exactly the notion that I think in the past, marketing was seen as the department that would deliver the campaigns, the TV commercials. And I think now it's crystal clear that marketing is in charge of driving growth, because our job is exactly to bridge the company to consumers, adding value to consumers in a way that you also add value to the business, driving growth. So that is probably the most important change that I see over the last couple of decades in terms of how the marketing functions, behaves inside organizations. And the last thing that I would say is the need for consistency, because it's very common for us to see, given the world is becoming more and more dynamic, now more than ever, it's important that we drive our marketing efforts with a lot of consistency and authenticity to what our brands stand for. So these are the 3 big elements that I really believe have been evolving a lot in the marketing function in the last couple of decades.
That's great. So brands are about people, and they're about growth, and they're about authenticity. Yeah, that's a fantastic summary. So you've touched on this a little bit, but what do you think have been the biggest shifts in terms of either consumer needs or the way that brands engage with consumers?
Wow, it's very interesting to see what's going on with the world, right? And we've been doing a lot of consumer insights sessions, and we always land in the same place. Like in the last couple of years, we've been through polycrisis. You have pandemic, you have war, you have social crisis, you have economical crisis. So everything is very dynamic. One of the things that is having a big impact on consumer needs is exactly that. As a consequence of all those crises, consumers are now more than ever focused on living today. People want to have a good life, and they want to live today. It's less about preparing for the future. It's less about saving for tomorrow, and more about having great experiences today. The second thing that we see making a big impact on consumer behavior is actually connected to the first point, is the need for socialization. So we see a lot of research and a lot of literature about loneliness going on in the world as a consequence of all these big crises that we have been through as well. So socialization is a big thing, is a big need that people are going after. So having experiences today, not in isolation, social experiences. These are 2 big, gigantic things that we see having a big impact in the way we do business in multiple industries and in our industry as well. For us, it is actually, in the end of the day, a big privilege to do beer, because beer belongs in people's lives exactly in those moments when they get together to have a good time and to celebrate. So we're really putting our brands connected to these trends now more than ever in order to provide those experiences and those moments of socialization to consumers. And I think it's a great time to do beer.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. You referenced there the role of research in helping you understand what's changing there. How would you say the role of insights has changed over the last period?
That's a great question as well, Adele, because simply put, I believe that in the past, we used to call this department insights, but in the end of the day, it was more like the department of research. It was all about doing focus groups and really asking a few questions to consumers to get answers and to share that knowledge in an organized way. I really believe that insights is moving from being the research department into becoming a real strategic function that drives the strategic directions for companies to drive growth. Exactly because marketing is now the bridge between the business and consumers, insights provide the key strategic information to help marketers provide direction for the commercial organizations inside companies, and therefore to drive better business results and to drive growth. So I really believe that insights has been improving and gaining a lot of relevance inside organizations in the last couple of years, and I believe it's going to continue in that trend.
I love that idea that marketing is the bridge between the business and the consumer. And with that in mind, and thinking specifically about the role of CMO, how would you say that's changed over the last 2 decades, and where do you see that evolving in the future?
I really believe that CMOs used to be the ones spending dollars, doing TV commercials, and delivering marketing campaigns without a clear connection between means and ends, without a clear point of view about what's the outcome of all that. So it was more of an expense line rather than something really critical for strong business results. I believe that now, given how dynamic the consumer environment is, companies are realizing that the only way for them to win big is to become consumer-centric for real, is to have a strong pulse with consumers, is to change the way companies behave. Instead of saying, this is my P&L, this is what we want to do, let's now work to convince consumers about it. Now it's much more of an outside-in perspective. Let's deeply understand where consumers are going to, where the industry is going to, and then let's adjust how we work so that we can add value to them. And this is how we add value to our business as a consequence of that. And marketers, the CMO, is at the center of that discussion. The CMO is the bridge between consumers and the business. The CMOs must be the architects of growth inside the organizations. I think internally we used to say that marketing used to be the flight attendant. Now marketing is in the cockpit of the organization for real. This is not motivational speech. This is not a pep talk. It's just a picture of reality and the role that we have to deliver now. And with that, as a consequence of that, it comes with great responsibility. So with great power comes great responsibility. And I really believe that the CMO role is more important than ever before, maybe.
That's a really interesting idea, that the CMO is the architect of growth within the organisation. And of course, part of that is about spending dollars on advertising, but advertising as an investment to brand building. So with that in mind, could you tell us about any particularly successful campaigns for your brands that really stand out for you over this time?
Absolutely. If we bring to life now that idea of CMOs being architects of growth, I would mention as an example, Corona Zero. Corona Zero is an intentional move for us to develop non-alcoholic non-alcoholic beer segment in the industry. It connects with the clear consumer trend of moderation, and we have a big role to play as leaders in the industry to develop that segment faster. In order to do so, we chose Olympics to be the launch pad for the international expansion of Corona Zero, our leading horse as a non-alcoholic brand, leveraging from the power of Corona brand. The key thing there is that we need to be bold. We need to take bold decisions, right? And then we spoke with the International Olympic Committee in order for us to agree to have beer being a global partner of the Olympics for the first time in history, exactly because it's all about the non-alcoholic proposition and advocating for moderation. And then once we accomplish that together, as an organization, together with the IOC in the commercial organization in the company, we managed to expand Corona Cero to more than 40 different countries, and we doubled the volumes of this brand in a couple of months. And Corona Cero is nowadays one of the fastest growing brands within the segment, and the industry as a whole is winning as a consequence of that. So again, being a bridge between consumers and the business, consumers win, the company wins, and the industry as a whole wins. I think this is a clear example of that. We can also talk about Michelob Ultra, for example, in the United States. When you talk about making sure that we adjust the way we brew our products in order to serve consumers, instead of trying to convince consumers to buy whatever we do, we have Michelob Ultra as a brand that stands for low carbs and low calories in the United States mainly. This is why it is called the superior light beer. So it's all about bringing a superior proposition into the industry, bringing technology to brew beer in a superior way, to provide consumers the taste that they love in their beer, but with lower stats in calories and carbs, so that you can have more of what you want and less of what you don't. It's not a coincidence that Michelob Ultra became the fastest growing brand in the United States. So again, it's another example of understanding consumers, adjusting how we work in order to give them what they need. And by adding value to consumers, we end up adding value to the company as well, and ultimately to the industry as a whole, especially as consumers become much more conscious about moderation. These propositions that we just spoke about, be it Corona Cero or Michelob Ultra, become more and more relevant, and the industry as a whole benefits from that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And thinking about some of those shifts in attitude and need, so the rise of moderation, the need for lighter products, how do you ensure that your brands stay relevant in this current era of rapid technological and cultural change?
We have a big philosophy here, which is to be ambitious but humble. So we are very ambitious to be the number one in everything we do, at the same time as we are humble to learn every single day. This is how we become competitive. Otherwise, we know that comfort zone is the beginning of a very tough journey. So having said that, we have this superiority framework inside our organization exactly to make sure that we are never into comfort zone when we think about developing and brewing and delivering our products. So we track our brands and our products every year against the key brands in the industry in order to make sure that we offer our consumers every day superior propositions. And this is what makes us really energize every single day in order to do exactly what you said, to bring best-in-class technology, best-in-class R&D together with strong insights in order to provide products, beers that will be designed to fulfill the ultimate consumer needs, so that we can lead the industry in that direction. That is something that is a very strong pillar for us in the business. And then, of course, we use technology in multiple different ways as well, not only to brew our products, but also in order to operate in a better way. So I assume that almost nobody is aware of it, but close to 80% of our total net revenues as a company, they are delivered through digital channels nowadays. So on top of doing our basic beer business, we have a strong B2B and a strong DTC business inside the company now, so that we can leverage technology to connect with bar owners, with the points of connection, and with consumers using specific apps, so that we can have a one-to-one interaction. We can then provide personalization at scale, which takes our relationship level to the next level, both with customers and with consumers. And this is when we apply AI in a superior way, for example, so on and so forth, and all the edgy technological developments, so that technology can become strong means to an end, which is always to elevate the relationship we have with customers and consumers, so that we can really have a superior outcome by having better businesses to consumers, to customers, and the fulfilling needs of consumers in a superior way.
Fascinating. So technology affecting product for the good, but also how you can communicate, connect and outreach to customers and consumers as well. That's really interesting. Now, one theme we've seen emerge over the last 20 years, particularly with large organisations, is the challenge of effective portfolio management. And we mentioned earlier, you have 9 brands in this year's top 20 alcohol ranking. So with that in mind, how do you assign the right role to each brand in the portfolio? What do you consider to be the core of the portfolio and then the core of each brand within the portfolio? Could you tell us a bit about that?
Wow, I feel like I'm opening the kitchen here of how we work every day. This is probably the most important discussion we have here at the office every single day. So to keep the answer simple, probably I would highlight 2 elements. First, it always starts with the consumers. So again, it's not about us saying this is what we want to do with these brands and then trying to convince consumers about it. It's about understanding consumers first, and then we position our brands in a way that they will be powerful in terms of connecting with them. So the beginning of the answer for your question is what we call consumer motivations. So every year we track a gigantic base of consumers all over the world in order to be up to speed on the key motivations for them to drink beer. And then once we map those key motivations, we make sure that we position each one of our brands specifically and intentionally inside each one of these big motivational pillars so that we can end up having complementarity by having different brands addressing different needs instead of overlapping our brands, having multiple brands going after the same consumer and after the same occasion, for example. So this is the key secret sauce for us to start by having the brands properly positioned to address consumers the right way. The second element is in terms of how we prioritize our portfolio strategy so that we can play in each one of the markets in a powerful way. Beer is a very local business. Beer is a very culturally relevant business. So it's very important for us to have a very sharp portfolio strategy on a market by market basis. So in a nutshell, what we do is we aim to have as a starting point the number 1 brand on the core brand, on the mainstream segment in every one of the markets. Because these are usually the local brands that represent the culture of the nation, the colors of the flag, all the cultural aspects are represented by these local big beer brands. So our goal number 1 is to have the number 1 mainstream brand in every market. Then we address premiumization, aiming to have the number 1 premium brand in those markets as well. And this is when we bring the international, the global brands to the stage, because this matters a lot in the process of premiumization. Then the third step is to try to have the number 1 Beyond Beer brand in these markets as well. Beyond Beer is everything that is not directly a beer. For example, it's a ready-to-drink cocktail. All these products that we can brew, that we can produce using our capabilities as well, but they're not exactly beer. This is how, by doing this 1, 2, 3, we maximize the way we connect our portfolio to consumers by being both relevant to consumers in a deep way, but also tailor-made for each one of the markets where we operate, instead of trying to have a one-size-fits-all sort of strategy, because in the world as it is today, we know it does not work.
I love that. So a very deep understanding to allow you to flex with real efficiency the role of the different brands across the portfolio. That's such a great explanation. Thank you. Let's look now to the future and the future of marketing. So consumer behaviour inevitably is always evolving. What current trends do you think brands need to pay the most attention to for the future? And what do you think the implications are for marketing in your category, but also the industry generally?
Well, if I had to choose one thing to say, Adele, I would say humanity. That's the key thing that I believe will make a difference in the future. I really believe that having a strong pulse with consumers as human beings is what's going to make a big difference for organizations in the near future, for me, like without a doubt. And then when we double click into that, I really believe that consumers will continue to look for ways to live better and for longer. So I really believe that wellness will be a big thing moving forward, and this is a trend that will make a gigantic impact in multiple industries. The second thing is socialization. I really believe that as people become aware of the fact that they shouldn't wait until tomorrow in order to have a good life, that although they want to have a longer life, they need to enjoy every day, they need to enjoy today. I really believe that having great experiences and having a greater level of socialization will continue to be a big trend for the next couple of years. So these are big, gigantic trends that I see making a big impact in industries moving forward. The third thing that I would highlight is the fact that things will continue to be dynamic. I think after the pandemic, we were all looking for that moment when we would be able to say we're back to normal because things are more stable. But history has been proving to us that the pace of change is just accelerating. So consumers will continue to evolve in a very dynamic way, and this is actually the new normal. Change will continue to happen faster, and we need to get used to that. So I believe this is a third big trend that we need to adapt to, get ready for, and lead as leading companies in our industries.
I love this tension that you're highlighting, that amidst a huge amount of constant change, we have some things that endure. Humanity, socialization and enjoyment. I love that tension that we have change and we have some things that stay the same. We just have to navigate our way through those. And talking of things that change, finally, we're all aware of the pace of development and adoption of AI. What do you think the implications are for the industry?
Wow, very good question, Adele. And we have all been talking so much about that, right? It's very common for me to get some questions like, how can you do modern marketing by using AI? And I really believe, for example, that modern marketing is marketing that drives growth. AI is means to an end. I like this analogy of AI when I remember when cell phones were launched. They just changed everything. So it's not about are you going to use it or not, and it just makes everything better, period. And sooner rather than later, everybody's going to adopt it because it's going to free up time in so many directions. It's going to make a lot of things much more effective. So it's just going to step change how industries work. And we're all going to we have to embrace AI without a doubt. But for me, it's important to keep the notion that AI is not the end game. AI is an enabler for us to do business better. So in our case, we were just talking about personalization at scale. AI helps us a lot on that end because, for example, AI helps us to drive better audience segmentation. The capacity of data processing that AI gives us allows us to have much more accurate audience segmentation. And then AI helps us a lot as well on being much faster on how we provide tailor-made content to these different audience segments in a much more effective and faster way so that we can end up providing personalization at scale in a way that is faster and much more effective. So this is just one of the examples of how we've been using AI in a very strong way inside our business every single day. But we could spend hours and hours talking about it. But for me, the key notion is that AI is an enabler. It is not the end game.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Marcel, and congratulations again to you and the whole team at AB InBev for your results in Kantar's BrandZ Global Ranking 2025.
Thank you so much, Adele. Thank you, BrandZ. Thank you, Kantar. See you next time.